Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my fall book recommendations and my fall TBR. I have compiled the longest list of fall book recommendations for y'all. So we have fantasy, romance, literary fiction, anything you could ask for, I got for you today. And then also at the end, I'm going to share my fall TBR because I have quite a few books that I would like to read basically before it's December. So if y'all have read any of them, please let me know down below what you thought of them. And if you enjoy this video, please make sure to hit the little like button because it really does help a girl out. And if you want to see more content from me, make sure that you're subscribed. But let's get into it. Let's start with fantasy. First fantasy I have for y'all is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is a 7/8 book long series, so it is perfect to start right now because depending on how fast you read, you could literally be done with this by winter or even like halfway through winter, and that is just so fitting for this series. Now, you have two ways that you could read this thing. You could either start with Throne of Glass or Assassin's Blade. I feel like a lot of people put off this series because there's a lot of pressure on the internet to read it a specific way because everyone is a diehard fan of the way that they originally read it. I read it the romantic version, which is starting with Throne of Glass and reading Assassin's Blade third, and I loved it that way, but I've heard so many people swear up and down that starting with Assassin's Blade is the right way to go. And what I have learned from my time being on here is you could read Assassin's Blade in literally any place possible, still enjoy the series if you're meant to enjoy the series. So do a little research, figure out which way you would like to consume this series, and just start the dang thing because it is so worth it. If you read Throne of Glass first with Assassin's Blade third, I will say it's a little bit of an emotional punch to the gut because Assassin's Blade is a prequel. So reading the first two books in the present timeline and then going backwards to Assassin's Blade where you already know exactly what's going to happen kind of puts like a little like gray, dark, gloomy cloud over you that hurts, but it's fantastic. Now, if you like going into books with background knowledge, I would highly recommend reading Assassin's Blade first. I think that would be for you. But for me, Throne of Glass is where it was at. I really enjoyed reading this one first. And if you're like, I don't know anything about this series, I'm not going to tell you much because spoilers. Essentially, we are following Selena. She is an assassin and she's going to be doing assassin things. And that is all I'm saying because we are a spoiler-free zone. Next, we have Fantasma by Kaylee Smith. I just read this thing and y'all, this was fantastic. In this book, we are following Ophelia and she comes from a family of necromancers. Crazy, right? Already off to an insane start. When her sister up and leaves in the middle of the night, Ophelia is convinced that her sister is entering into Fantasma, which is a haunted house competition. So Ophelia is like, well, you know what? I gotta go get my sister back. I have to save her. So Ophelia enters into Fantasma and she decides, I'm not gonna win. I'm just going to find my sister and get the heck out. If you win Fantasma, I believe you get one wish come true. So anything that you want, that will come true for you. Fantasma is not something that is easy peasy, walk in, walk out. No, like it is a very dangerous setting. The Fantasma competition is where you are wanting to survive 9 floors and each floor is supposed to resemble one of the rings of hell. And so it is terrifying. There are ghosts, there are phantoms everywhere. And for some reason, a phantom is very drawn to Ophelia and they decide to potentially make a little alliance with one another. Maybe there's like a bit of an attraction, who's to say? But one of the rules of Fantasma is if you fall in love while you are in this competition, you get cursed. This was so good. If you grew up liking Danny Phantom, this is for you. This is for you guys. Next, we have The Shepherd's King duology. The first book is One Dark Window. This is by Rachel Gillick. Y'all have already heard me scream up and down from the rooftops over this series. I loved it so much. It is a gothic fantasy, and that's why I believe that it is so insanely perfect for fall time because it has this little dark atmospheric vibe to it, especially since in this world there is a mist surrounding everything that can be very dangerous. But I will say I have mentioned this series quite a few times on my channel, so here's my very quick synopsis for you. We are in this world with a very intricate magic system. There's good magic, there's bad magic. The good magic can use by touching a certain card, and that whatever card you pick is what powers you are able to yield. The bad magic happens when you are infected. If you are infected, you immediately become a target within the kingdom and you have to be handled because you don't know what power you're going to be able to possess, and it makes you a little uncontrollable. Our main girl, she got infected when she was younger. Her family is like, you know what, we're not ready yet. We're just gonna hide her under the radar. It's gonna be completely fine. We will handle it when we get there. And then she grows up and her family's like, oh my goodness, we made the right decision because she has no powers. This is amazing. But little do they know that she has just been hiding everything from them because she has what is called a nightmare within her. It is almost like a parasite that can hear everything, see everything, and talk to her. And you cannot tell if this is something that's good or if it's just a pure monster leading her down a bad path. Who is to say? She learns the way to get him out of her is by collecting all of these cards. And so she actually teams up with the nephew of the king, I believe, and they go on the hunt together, not sharing all of the information that both of them possess. And the journey goes from there. So good. And book 2, you have a format change, so there's more POVs, and the subplot to book 2, chef's kiss. Literally was obsessed with the subplot in book 2. We have Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I know y'all have been seeing this all over your page, whether it's been on here or if it's been on your For You page. I know y'all have been seeing it, and I loved this book so much. If y'all really enjoyed ACOTAR, specifically Akamath, so A Court of Mist and Fury, this is your book. This is literally your book. Bear with me with the synopsis because it is rather confusing, but this is a trust the process type of book. If you go into this book and you read 20 pages and you're like, I don't know what is going on, and you put it down, maybe pick it up again because it takes a little bit to find your footing, but it is so worth it. So trust the process and just see what happens. In this book, we are following our main character. She lives in the poorest part of the kingdom. Literally, the queen does not care about them any way, shape, or form. Sometimes they don't even have food or water. One day she's like, you know what? I'm gonna steal from a queen's guard. What is the worst that could happen to me? Well, you get caught. She literally got caught. She is brought back to the queen. She is about to be unalived. And all of a sudden she ends up forming this portal made of quicksilver. Side note, quicksilver is a sentient object within this world. So she forms this portal, she hops through it, and she ends up in the Fae realm. And she meets Kingfisher right here. He is a shadow wielding Fae who is very, very sassy and has some banter, and he's cute and he's smirky and he is everything y'all could ever ask for. Figure out that the reason she ended up in the Fae realm is because she used quicksilver. Everyone in the room is like, oh my goodness, we could use you. We need you. We have been in a century-long battle with the vampires, and Quicksilver could be the key to winning. I also just want to note that he possesses Quicksilver, but he can't control it. It is controlling him, so no one really knows what's going to end up happening to him either. Oh, it's fantastic. This book is just so good, and this is a true enemies to lovers. This is a true slow burn, and y'all will devour it. Please trust me on this one. Next, we have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is vampires meets the Hunger Games. So the Hunger Games set in a universe with vampires. Every, I want to say 100 years or so, there is a Hunger Games equivalent competition that's going on in this kingdom, and the winner receives a wish from the goddess. They can wish for whatever the heck they want. Our main female character, she's not a vampire, but she's living in the vampire kingdom under the protection of the vampire king. He actually saved her when she was a child, so he has been training her whole life to win this competition, and her wish is something that could benefit the both of them. And it is so good, and the romance in this book is fantastic because to win this vampire Hunger Games, she has to team up or make an alliance with a vampire. This book is definitely a little heavier on the romantasy element than the sequel is. The sequel has more political intrigue in it, and it just really dives deeper into kind of like the lore of the kingdom and everything that is going down and happening, and it really progresses the story forward. And then there's also a novella. Let me add that the novella that you need to read in between books 1 and book 2, it is called Six Scorched Roses. It is almost like a Beauty and the Beast retelling in the best way possible. And Carissa Broadbent just has a way of telling her stories where you are never bored. Like, you really aren't. And all of a sudden you're reading this book, you sit down, you're like, I'm gonna read for 30 minutes. You're there for like 3 hours and you don't realize how much time has passed. It's fantastic. Highly, highly recommend this one. And there's another book coming out, I think in November. It's a spin-off from this original set because this set is just a duology. But I believe the author said that she is going to create a set of 3 duologies for this universe. So we're about to start our second set, which is really exciting. We have The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. This book is like the Hunger Games, but meets Percy Jackson. Every 100 years in this world, we have the Crucible, which is essentially the Hunger Games, but it's hosted by the gods and goddesses. Since the gods and goddesses can't compete, because why would they? It would be so unfair. They all have powers and really no one would win. They choose human tributes. So each god or goddess gets 1 human tribute to compete for them. Hades never participates in these games, ever. But for some reason this year, he shows up when everyone is picking their tribute and he goes, this girl, this is who my tribute is going to be. And all the gods and goddesses are like, what is he planning? Because obviously he is planning something. Why does he come out of the blue to compete this year. Everyone is wanting this girl to fail because they know that if Hades wins, something bad is going to happen. She is under the watchful eye / being mentored by Hades to try and win, but she's also feeling this little like connection towards Hades / why is Hades kind of cute? Why is Hades kind of attractive? So she doesn't really know what to do from there, but our main girl really wants to win because when she was a baby, Zeus cursed her. Zeus doesn't even remember cursing her, but he cursed her so that she would never be able to be loved. And so if she wins the crucible, the first thing she's going to do is get rid of this curse. She also has a reason to play to win. So good. And look at the sprayed edges. This one is also on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. So if you don't want to go out and purchase this, I think it's like a $32 book, get on Kindle Unlimited. I have one more fantasy rec for y'all, and this one is a YA. Anything by Cassandra Clare I think is a big win for fall, but especially the Infernal Devices series. This is a trilogy, so it is Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Princess. Y'all, the chokehold that this series had on me as a kid, unmatched. It is literally unmatched. There's really not a lot that I can tell y'all about this series because it is a spinoff from the Mortal Instruments, but just know that this is the only time and the only instance that I accept a love triangle. I know that that is a bold, bold claim, and I know y'all are probably gasping right now, but it is literally the only scenario that I'm like, yes, I am content with this love triangle and I accept it. It makes sense to me. Oh my goodness, and y'all will just love some Will Herondale. You will, you will, you will. It also has a little bit of like a historical aspect to it because I believe it takes place in the 1800s. So that's a really fun element to it as well. Moving into romance, I definitely have several different moods for the fall time. Sometimes I want something that screams Halloween, maybe like witchy, vampire-y, anything along those lines. Other times I want to sob my eyes out, like legitimately let me boo-hoo all night long over something that is so hard-hitting and so moving. And then sometimes I just want a cutie little time that's very, very mindless, maybe set in a small town. So if you're like me, I have some options for y'all. First, we have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This book literally starts at a Halloween party, which is why it is perfect for fall. And these two characters, dare I say, have the best banter I have ever experienced in a rom-com. So as I said, they meet at a Halloween party, they have an amazing night together, and a few weeks later she goes, oh no, I don't have a period. Oh no, 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 and she is pregnant. She decides to tell him that she is pregnant. She's like, I'm not asking for anything, I just thought you had the right to know, and he immediately says, I want to be at every appointment if you will let me. Anything that you grant me, I would love to be there for. He goes as far as letting her move in with him so that he can be there for every single experience of this pregnancy and be with her every step of the way. They are not in a relationship. They want to be friends because they don't want to mess up anything for their future child. And it is so wholesome. There's actually another book coming out in this world in January that is focusing on her two best friends. And I am so excited for it because her two best friends, they've been married. I want to say they've been married for like 10 years by the time this book takes place. I think they're having a marriage in crisis story. I kind of eat up a marriage and crisis story. And so that one's called Out of the Woods, comes out in January. Very excited for that, but highly recommend this one. I know that accidental unplanned pregnancy books are not for everyone, but I'm here to speak my truth and tell you that I eat it up. I eat it up almost every single time. I kind of love it. Next, we have Lease on Love by Fallon Ballard. Again, this book does not completely scream fall vibes to me, but there's a Thanksgiving scene in this book that is so wholesome, and the found family just made my little heart flutter, and it almost brought a tear to my eye. In this book, we're following Sadie. Sadie has been working her tail off to get this promotion. The day that she's convinced her boss is finally going to give her the promotion, he gives it to someone that's brand new, someone that has not done half of the work that Sadie has done, and in fact is a Nepo baby. And so Sadie lets them have it. She does not hold back. She goes off and she's like, I'm done. I am so done. I put in so many hours to this job and y'all give it to this person? No, I quit. Gets up, she leaves, and she is talking to her best friends and she's like, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I need to do something that I actually love. She decides that she's going to open a little flower floral arrangement business. With that, she also decides, you know what? I finally have time in my life. I need to start dating. It is time for me to start dating. She goes out with her friends one night. They're looking at all these dating apps. They may or may not have had one too many drinks. She swipes right on this guy. She goes to meet him for coffee. I believe the next day, he sits down and he starts talking about his apartment, how he has an extra room, how much a month it'll cost, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, that's really interesting. Why would you bring this up on a first date though? He's like, a first date? What are you talking about? We met on a roommate finding app. And she believes that this is fate. And so she goes, you know what? I'm going to start over anywho. I will be your roommate. Let's be roommates. This story is strangers to roommates to friends to best friends to maybe more. No one ever talks about Fallon Ballard on here, and she is so, so good. She has another book called Just My Type. That one screams a little bit more winter to me, but Just My Type is literally how to lose a guy in 10 days. Y'all need to jump on the Fallon Ballard bandwagon. That's all I have to say. I just read this one for my 24-hour readathon. This is Best Hex Ever by Nadia El Fawzi. Guys, this is perfect for fall. It's literally under 300 pages, so y'all can read this in a couple of hours. I can attest. It can be read in a couple of hours, and it was just so cute. We are following this girl, and she is a witch. She has powers, but that is not something common in her world, and so no one really knows that she's a witch except for her best friends, her mom, obviously, because her mom is also a witch, and that's it. Our main character, Dina, she's in a relationship, I want to say like 10 years ago, and she was head over heels in love with this girl. She was convinced that the girl she was dating had some kind of magic in her bloodline. Like, she was just convinced somewhere in her ancestry there was a witch. Whenever Dina decided to share with this girl that Dina herself was a witch, the girl kind of held it over her head. Anytime they'd be in class or anything like that and Dina would score better than her girlfriend, she'd make horrible comments to Dina saying, well, we can't all have magic to increase our scores. We can't all use magic to have this. We can't all do this. Even though Dina never used her magic for any of this, and it would make Dina feel so bad about herself. When this girl breaks up with Dina, Dina decides, you know what? I'm not ready to let her go, so I'm gonna do a spell. I'm going to use a spell to get her to come back to me. And this girl is put under this spell. She's on her way back to Dina. She gets into an accident. Dina runs to the hospital to get her, and the girl's like, you put a spell on me. I was not able to control the situation, and you put me in here. How dare you put me in here? You will never find love. I hope whoever loves you in the future ends up hurt. And that was a hex. Dina, from that day forward, was hexed. Every single relationship Dina has been in since that first one, that person has ended up hurt as soon as they fall in love with Dina. Dina's like, you know what, I'm giving up on love. I cannot let anyone else get hurt. I can't. When it is her best friend's wedding, she is the maid of honor. She meets the best man several times, back to back to back, without even knowing who he was. And there is an instant connection there. And Dina is trying very, very hard to fight it, but it's there. And so Dina is contemplating with, do I take the chance? I don't want him to get hurt. What am I supposed to do with this? And you go from there, and it's so cute. It's so cute, and it's so well done. And if you're asking yourself, well, if she's a witch and her mom's a witch, why didn't she just have her mom fix the hex? Great question. Her mom is not aware that Dina is bisexual, and Dina was not ready to come out to her mother. And that is why Dina's been dealing with this hex her whole life by herself. For this book being as short as it is, there are a lot of complexities to it, and I ate it up. Another cutesy rom-com that's perfect for Halloween is My Vampire Plus One by Jenna Levine. In this book, we were following an accountant and a centuries-old vampire. They run into each other outside of our main female character's office when she's on her way home. He asks her for a favor. She quickly does it. And he's like, you know what? I will owe you a favor later. And he says that thinking that there's no way I'm gonna run into this girl again, no big deal. When our main female character decides to go to dinner with her family later that night, they are hounding her about being single. They're like, you're 30, you're single, what is wrong? You need to find love, like what? And she's overhearing about this, so she's like, I actually have a date. I have a date to my cousin's wedding, no one freak out. You will meet my date, I'm in a relationship, And so while she is trying to find this plus one fake date, she runs in to this guy again, and he agrees because he's like, you know what, you're right, I do owe you one. I do have to tell you something though, like, I am a vampire. She thinks that he's kidding when he says this. He's like, oh, okay, like no big deal, whatever. And in his mind, he's like, wow, she didn't even question it. This is awesome. This is so cool. She didn't even question that I'm a vampire. What on earth? And you go from there. This story is very silly. A lot of antics. I love a fake dating story, and he is very, very charismatic, and I kind of ate it up. Very quick, by the way. Next, we have Happy Medium by Sarah Adler. This one has a little bit more magical realism to it, and I really enjoyed this one. No one has been talking about this one either, so I don't really understand why no one's been bringing this one up. If you like Ashley Poston books, who I'm about to talk to in a hot second, this is literally for you. I will say that this book does take place in spring, but since there is ghosty element to it, I'm counting it for fall. I do think that this book was mismarketed and should have been published in fall. That was a little bit of a marketing mishap because I think more people would have heard of it / picked it up if it were released during the fall time. In this book, we were following our main character, Gretchen. She is a fake medium. By that, I mean that she is a con artist. People are coming to her asking to talk to some of their relatives who have passed, and Gretchen's like, yes, they're in a good place. Good things are happening. They are right here with us. I feel their spirits. But in reality, she's just conning them to get their money. One of her clients who comes to her all the time is like, I need your help. My next door neighbor, he owns a farm. There are ghosts in this house and he cannot get rid of the ghost to sell his farm. You need to go help him. I will pay you a lot of money to go get rid of this ghost. And Gretchen's thinking to herself, oh, beautiful. I will happily go visit this farm, do some little like spirits leave the farm and take your money. Like easy peasy lemon squeezy. I will happily do that. Gretchen goes to the farm. The farmer immediately is like, you are a con artist. Like get out of here. As Gretchen is leaving, she runs into an actual ghost. She runs into a ghost and the ghost explains to Gretchen that this farmer's family is cursed. If the farmer sells this farm, he will pass away immediately and become a ghost just like he did. Gretchen now is like, oh my God, wait, if I can see you, does this mean I'm actually a medium? I need to save this man, but he's not gonna believe me. She somehow convinces the farmer to let her stay. She's like, I will help you with the farm work. Please, 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 just let me stay. I just have a feeling that I have to be here. He's very hesitant about it, but he agrees. There's a little bit of like a chemistry to the both of them because like, let me just tell you, he's not an old farmer by any means. They're around the same age. So there is that attraction there. And the ghost is just a part of all these fun little antics that will just have you laughing out loud and you will be obsessed with this book. It's just so fun and no one talks about it. As I said, I need to talk about Ashley Poston. So we have The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip. She has another book, I think it's called A Novel Love Story. I haven't read that one yet. That one could also have fall vibes, but I can't tell you, I haven't read it. This one's my favorite. The 7-Year Slip, we are dealing with this girl who just inherited her late aunt's apartment. Her late aunt used to always tell her, this apartment is magical. It is my favorite place in the world. Things happen. You almost get lost in time when you're in this apartment. Our main girl is just thinking to herself like, okay, cool. I understand like you love this apartment. I understand that it's very, very special to you. But one day when she is entering her late aunt's apartment, there's a man in her living room, a man from 7 years in the past. While Clementine is in this apartment, she is able to speak to this man from 7 years ago and form a connection with him. And he has no clue that it's not his present time. And it is so unique and it handles the topic of grief so flippin' well. This is one of the hard-hitting fall romances that I was talking about. Like I was in tears by the end of this book. I loved it so much. The Dead Romantics also deals with grief. It deals with it in a different way than The 7-Year Slip does, but it's still a very, very beautiful manner. We are following our main female character. She is a ghostwriter. So she writes books under the pen name of very, very famous authors. She has to go home because of a family emergency. She heads home and she sees this ghost of a man that she's met in her day-to-day life, and she just learned that, oh my goodness, you just passed away, like you were a ghost. And so they're working together to figure out what happened to him and see if they are able to kind of rectify the situation and get him back to where he belongs. I also just want to say that it is not abnormal that she has seen ghosts. She has seen ghosts her whole life. In fact, she was kind of pegged as the weird girl in town because people thought that she was lying that she saw these ghosts. This one was really, really fantastic. I think Ashley Poston is another person where her books do perform very well, but I think they perform even better if they were published in fall. We have If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This book is literally Gilmore Girls meets When Harry Met Sally. This one was so good. It is a small town. We are following Michelle. Her mother just passed away. Michelle's mother's pride and joy was this inn that she owned in this very quirky small town. Michelle's sister is supposed to take it over, but she is not graduating college until December. So Michelle's like, you know what? I will take over the inn, and then in December you can come and I'll teach you everything you have to know. But this way, our mom's inn can stay in business. Michelle gets there. She has no clue what she is doing. All the people that are either staying in the inn or live in the town find that Michelle's a little standoffish and hard to talk to. She definitely gives Black Cat vibes. Her next door neighbor is the town baker, and he gives golden retriever vibes. He is a single dad, and he's like, you know what? I will help you. I will help you with the inn. I will also help you be able to like make friendships within this town. If you could just help me out with my girls, like that would be great, because the girls are drawn to Michelle. It is literally gender bent Luke and Lorelai vibes. And it takes place in 1997, so it has that late 90s nostalgic feel to it that just really adds to the story. It really, really does. And there's a Halloween scene in here that is just perfection. Perfection, I might say. Time for some hard-hitting romances. We have Before I Let Go and This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. I actually don't own a copy of Before I Let Go, but I will be getting it sometime soon because I loved both of these. Before I Let Go, we were following Yasmin and Josiah, and they are divorced. They used to be head over heels in love with one another, and then they both went through a series of tragedy that their marriage could not survive. They have 2 kids together, and so they are still very closely related. He lives right down the street from her, and he comes and goes as he pleases so that he can see his kids, obviously. They also own a restaurant together, so they are very much still connected. It's been about 2 years since they got divorced, since Yasmin got into a deep depression from these tragedies that happened to them. Yasmin is just now getting back to where she once was. She is starting to feel like herself again through therapy, I might add. This book is very therapy positive, and I loved that. The mental health representation was so good in this book. But it's been 2 years. Josiah is at the point in his life where he's like, I'm ready to start dating again. Yasmin saying to herself, I knew that this would happen, but I didn't think it would happen right now. I don't know if I'm ready to let him go. So on one hand, she's thinking about all these lingering feelings that she still has for Josiah. On the other hand, she's like, should I also start dating? Like, what does this mean? Josiah is seeing that Yasmin is back to the woman that he loved. And so he is now like, I'm starting a new relationship moving forward, but yet I see Yasmin and I see the woman that I fell in love with. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I sobbed my eyes out. I was boo-hooing, and then I immediately read This Could Be Us. This is an interconnected standalone. So this is following Yasmin's best friend. Yasmin's best friend's marriage, ooh, it's not in a great place, like at all. He is not a very nice man to her, and she is trying to remind herself of why they fell in love in the first place. And she just keeps telling herself, like, all marriages hit a rough and bumpy patch. Maybe one day we will go back to the way that we were. So I'm just gonna keep fighting for us. It's gonna be amazing. And then one day it is revealed to the world that her husband did some very shady things that gets him arrested. She had no clue that he was doing any of this at all. In her mind, she's like, this is all making sense. This is why he's been so standoffish to me. This is why he's been hanging out with his assistant so much. All of the pieces are connecting in my mind, and I cannot stand him for doing what he did. They had 3 kids together. She is now a single mom, having to raise the 3 kids, having to also juggle with the fact that her kids don't really understand what their dad did, and so they still want to be near their dad. They still believe that one day they might be a family again. Our main female character has not been on her own for about 16 to 17 years. So not only is she having to figure out how to be by herself, she's having to figure out how to raise her kids and provide for her kids during this time as well. And then, just to add on top of all of this, the man that was the key piece in putting her husband behind bars, she's kind of attracted to, and he's kind of drawn to her. And it's just good. It is so good. It is so beautiful. It deals a lot with self-love, which I really appreciate. And once again, amazing mental health and therapy representation in this book. Speaking of hard-hitting romance, you all need to read the Boys Ateman series by Chloe Walsh. You have Binding 13, Keeping 13, so that's Johnny and Shannon's story. You have Saving 6, Redeeming 6, that is Joey and Aoife's story, and then Taming 7, which is Gibbsy and Claire's story. Interconnected standalone / duets, found family to the extreme. So many trigger warnings, but I devoured this series. Look how much I tapped that thing. I could not be stopped. I love this one so much. In the first book, you were following Johnny and Shannon, and Johnny is going places in life. He is the star rugby player. He is going very far in life. We have Shannon, who comes from a very rough home life. She just transferred to this school, and an incident brings Johnny and Shannon together, and for some reason, Johnny cannot get Shannon out of his mind. He feels this pull towards her where he's like, I cannot stay away from Shannon. Shannon honestly is just trying to get through her life unseen. When Johnny is so drawn to her, it brings a lot of attention to her that she doesn't really know how to handle, and you just go from there, and this is beautiful. Time for some romantic suspense. Y'all need to read the Lost and Found series by Catherine Cowles. The first book is Whispers of You. Each of her books deals with some suspenseful / thriller adjacent subplot to them, to where I can never guess who the bad guy is. And that is my favorite thing in the world. In this book, we were following Ren and Holt. They were together in high school. They were head over heels in love with each other. Something happened to Ren that Holt blames himself for. And so Holt just gets up and leaves. Holt is like, I cannot stay around Ren anymore. I am the reason that this happened. I could have fixed the situation, and instead I'm the catalyst. He leaves for years and years. Ren was heartbroken, shattered, but she pulled herself back together. She's still in this small town, and then Holt comes back into the picture. And Holt is still in love with her. Wren's claiming that she's not in love with him, but you can tell that there are definitely still feelings there. So this is a second chance romance. And what happened to Wren is happening again, and no one knows why. And Holt's like, this time I am going to protect her. Given this second chance, and I'm not going to mess it up. So good. This is a series of interconnected standalones, and so each book has a different plot to it. We're following other members within Holt's family. They just get better and better with each book. Like, I kid you not, the last two books in the series, Shadows of You and Ashes of You, were 5 stars for me. So good. Oh my goodness. And the tropes in all the series. So the first book is second chance. The second book is friends to lovers. The third book is fake dating. The fourth one is single parent / grumpy sunshine. And the last book is single parent / nanny. Y'all need to read this series. Catherine Cowell, she needs more hype. She does. And they're perfect for fall, and they're very, very bingeable. If you are in a reading slump, you'll love and you'll get pulled out of it lickety split. All right, I have 2 literary fiction books / contemporary fiction books that y'all need to check out. Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is the season for normal people. This is the dang season for normal people. It's so good, and this is the time. Even if you don't read this book, at least watch the TV show. It will put you in the mood for fall. In this book, we are following Connell and Mary Ann. Connell is a very, very popular jock at school, and Mary Ann is the weird girl that people tend to avoid. Connell's mom is a housekeeper for Mary Ann's family, and the times that Connell comes over, he ends up talking to Mary Ann, and they have this instant connection with one another, and they end up forming a situationship of sorts. And I'm going to say a situationship because he refuses to acknowledge her in public. He does, and it really, really is heartbreaking. And you follow Connell and Mary Ann through their lives. Follow them after they were a situationship. You follow them when they meet each other again in university, after university, how they've kept in contact, and you are just a fly on the wall through the weirdest relationship of sorts. And it is so real. It is so raw. It is very toxic. And it's not for everyone. Like, if you need plot in your books, I would probably steer away from this. Maybe watch the TV show, but if you need plot, I don't think that this one's going to be for you, because there's really no ultimate goal that we are trying to achieve. We are literally just watching Mary Ann and Connell be messy to one another. But if you really like normal people, y'all need to read Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler. Very similar structure to Normal People, especially with the lack of quotation marks, but it is a fly on the wall story. Once again, you're following Adelaide. Adelaide just got out of a very toxic relationship. She is being told to recount this relationship from beginning to end, try and help her come to terms that this relationship was not healthy for her or good for her, and she deserves more. This book is clean by Taylor Swift. It hurts, but it is so beautifully done. And this one was a debut, so pop off Genevieve Wheeler, and I need her to write something else ASAP, because this broke my heart into a million pieces, and I loved it. I literally loved it. I have 2 mystery thrillers for y'all. That is by the same author, which means you need to just jump on the bandwagon for this author and read her, because she is literally one of my favorite authors to ever exist. The first one is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This is my favorite thriller. I do not take this lightly at all. This is a dark academia thriller. Half of it takes place in college, half of it takes place 10 years post-grad. They are at their college reunion. Something happened to one of their best friends while in college, and so at this reunion, they are all thinking to themselves, what if we got it wrong? What if the person that we claimed was the bad guy that did this to our best friend? What if we just put an innocent man behind bars? What if that person is still out there? And when they're starting to question it, events very similar to what happened in college start happening again. I love this book so much. No one talks about it. Also, Ashley Winstead writes romance books, and so there's a romance subplot in this book that is just chef's kiss, and I was swooning, but also just immersed in this world. I was immersed, and I could not guess the ending, which is what I was after. This is a weird book. This honestly is a very, very weird one, but I loved it. And it's also by Ashley Winstead. Midnight is the Darkest Hour. I'm not gonna tell you like anything about this book, except here's my pitch. Twilight meets Bonnie and Clyde meets Where the Crawdads Sing meets psychological thriller. So weird, but so good. Like, this is crazy, but it very much gives Twilight vibes, Meet the Crawdads vibes, Bonnie and Clyde, what the heck is going on? And I loved it. It's not for everyone, but it really, really worked for me. It did. All right, that is all of my fall book recommendations. Let's go into my fall TBR. But if you were just here for my fall book recommendations, you can scoot on out. But if you want to hear what is on my fall TBR, please stay and let me know which ones I should prioritize, because I really don't know anything about them and I would love y'all's input. So let's get into it. It's gonna be rapid fire because this is already a very long video. So let's chat. I really want to read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I feel like I'm so far behind on the hype for this book. I haven't even finished the Caraval series, so I'm probably going to add that to my TBR as well because I've been told I need to read that first. But oh my gosh, I just want to binge read this series. I've heard it's fantastic. I also want to read Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. This was a cover buy for me because she's beautiful. Like literally stunning. Romantasy, Prince of Envy. I'm just very intrigued by this. Again, I haven't read the first series that this is a spinoff from because I didn't realize this one was a spinoff, but I don't think I'm gonna read it. I think I'm just gonna read Throne of the Fallen and we'll go from there. But oh, I'm so excited for this one. Another romantasy series that I'm really going to read is Belladonna by Adelaide Grace. I have been told that this is like Bridgerton meets fantasy meets YA. What else do I need to know? Y'all are aware of how much I love Bridgerton. Y'all are aware of that. But put that in a fantasy world? Ooh, I just feel like I'll eat that up. Oh, it looks so good. And it's a trilogy. It's over. It's done with. I can binge it and hopefully love. Hopefully. It's time for me to finally read the second book in the Crescent City series. This is House of Sky and Breath. Y'all know I loved that first book and I just keep putting this one off because it's huge. It is literally huge. And also, I know so many people that loved the first book in the series and then they just said the rest of the books were just, it was downhill. Like there was really no saving it. And so I'm scared because the first series is so high up there in my ranking of Sarah J Maas books that I really don't want the rest of the series to just fall flat and plateau out for me. But I think it's finally time. I really do. And again, fall is fantasy. What could get more fantasy than Crescent City? I don't know. I don't know. I know absolutely nothing about this next book, but I really want to read Spark of the Everflame. It's a gorgeous cover. I've been told it has a really good slow burn element to it, and I love a slow burn. My little rom-commy books. I really want to read This Spells Love by Kate Robb. I can't read this at any other time in the year. I really can't. This is a October book. I need to read that this month. Like that's what's going to happen. What if one little wish changed everything? I don't know. What if? Hopefully I'll get to it this month. I also am really wanting to read This Spells Disaster by Tori Ann Martin. I've been told that this is like Teen Witch meets How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. If y'all know anything about me, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is my favorite movie ever, and this is an October read. I cannot read this at any other time but October. I don't make the rules, but I just made that rule. So hopefully I can get to it soon. And then finally, I have 3 thrillers that I would really, really like to read. I really want to read No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. I loved What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall, and so I have a feeling I'll absolutely love this one. I know nothing about it, but it says, 3 sisters, 2 murders, and too many secrets to count. Sign me up, period. I'm excited. And then we have She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica. Mary Kubica is the author of Local Woman Missing, which is top 5 thrillers for me. Easily a top 5 thriller for me. And so I have a feeling that this one's also gonna pop off. I haven't seen anyone talk about it though, which makes me a little wary, but maybe I will love it and I will just be the one yapping about it all the time. And then finally, I have Murder Road by Simone St. James. I got this in one of my Book of the Month boxes. I'm not sure which month, but I've been saving it for spooky ooky season. I have. I've actually never read a Simone St. James book, and I feel like she has been pegged as like one of the queens of thrillers. And so I'm a little behind. So I'm excited to check this one out and see how I feel about it, because maybe I'll find a new auto by author, which is honestly such a win. Okay guys, so that is the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you have read any of these books, please let me know all of your thoughts down below and let me know which ones I need to prioritize. I would really, really appreciate that. And that's all I have. So I will talk to y'all later. Love y'all.